Good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome back to hashtag Zoo Open Online. We are behind the reptile house in our native turtle yard today. So we're going to be talking turtles. So get in here, join us, let us know you can hear us, you can see us. We'll start with some shout outs and our morning announcements, and then we will get right into talking turtles. They have this gorgeous growing green yard back here, and a lot of them are enjoying some time out basking, and some of them are eating breakfast back here behind us. I'm sure you guys will get to see that in just a moment. So let's see who's here with us today. Good morning to Autumn and Alan. Hey Carissa. Hi Bryn, age 12. Nice of you guys to join us this morning. Hi Allison, thanks for tuning in. Good morning Abby in Perrysburg. Hi Denise in Bellevue. Thanks for tuning in. Oh my gosh, look at the turtles enjoying their breakfast. There's some interesting manners they have there. The one's just totally in the bowl and everyone else has to eat around it. Hi Athena and Kaden. Oh, Amanda says she loves turtles. Yes. I just love it when we make people's days like this. Good morning to Autumn in Michigan. Hi, Bethany and Kimmy Sue and Connie and Link. Hi, John and Jessica. Hi, Theo, William, and Marcus. Hi, Kendall and Kellen. Hi, Hazel and Owen. Thanks for tuning in this morning. All right, guys. We are going to get started with our morning announcements here. And as always, we'd like to thank you for joining us each and every weekday morning for hashtag Zoo Open Online. We are committed to doing this as long as we are closed, which, yes, we still remain closed. At this time, we do not have a reopening date yet, but as soon as we do, we will let everyone know on here, on our social, and on our website. Stay tuned for updates. We know you guys are all anxious. We're anxious to get you back here, and as soon as it's safe to do so, we will be ready to welcome you back. But again, we don't have a date yet. Please stay tuned to our social and our website for more updates. All right, today is Thursday. That means meals on the go. Don't forget to place your order before 1 o'clock today. And of course, it's still a holiday week, guys. Add on those desserts, add on those adult beverages, cupcake kit, cookie kit. Have a little fun with it. And don't forget about all of our virtual offerings, toledozoo.org/virtual, to see all the things our education department has going. And of course, we do remain closed, and that means we can still use your help. If you are able, please hit that donate button here on our live feeds or go to toledozoo.org/donate for all the ways that you can help us. And don't forget about our new Summer Kids Club. There's still time to sign up for that. It's going to start on June 1st. Go to toledozoo.org/kidsclub for more. All right, guys, we are here in the native turtle yard behind the reptile house with our keeper, Sam, one of our herpetology keepers, and she is going to talk to us today about our native turtles. So who do you have here as our first star, Sam?
Well, this is a spotted turtle, and as this yard is called our native turtle yard, they are native to this area. You can see they're called spotted turtles because of all of the yellow spots. And we actually use these spots to identify them. So more or less they are unique to each turtle. Some spotted turtles actually are without spots altogether, but that's pretty rare. They have spots on their front legs, on their faces, and they're relatively small. They are also pretty long-lived. So this turtle is actually from the mid-70s. So we're not sure how old she was when she came here, but she could at least be 40 or 50 years old.
Oh my goodness. And she is just a little bigger than your hand.
Yep.
And can she fit all the way inside her shell?
She can. She's actually really good about pulling her head in. She's very curious right now, so she's not doing it. But they are able to pull their heads and their feet all the way into that shell, and that's for defense. It's very hard for a predator to get to them if they can't get to their limbs.
Absolutely. And Nina, age 8, would like to know, how old can turtles get?
It varies depending on the species, but turtles overall are very long-lived. Easily these native turtles could live into their 50s, some into the hundreds. A lot of larger tortoises like the Galapagos and the Aldabras can live well over 100.
Unreal. That's so cool. All right, so who is our next star of the show?
All right. Another one is our Blandings turtle. And these two turtles are actually endangered in the state of Ohio. But this is a Blandings turtle. You can see it looks very different. It's a lot bigger. One easy way to tell a Blandings turtle is that bright yellow neck that they have and that really cute smile.
Yes, they are so cute.
But these are also endangered. One of the biggest threats that they have in this area is fragmentation of the populations. So because they're from wetlands and swamps and bogs and things like that, with development they start to break apart those habitats, and it makes it very difficult for populations to be able to mix with each other.
And he? Okay, I want to make sure I get these things right. He is climbing here on your arm a little bit. Talk to us about his little claws.
So they're actually really good about digging through the substrate. They're from, like I said, muddy, flooded kind of meadows and streams. And they'll dig through the substrate and find worms and crustaceans and things like that. Both of these turtles are omnivorous, which means that they eat both plant matter and meat.
Very cool. And Michelle, age 30, wants to know if they prefer to live in groups or alone.
Turtles generally, I don't want to say they don't live in groups, but they all live in kind of the same habitats. So if you go out into a stream or a pond, you'll see multiple species basking together on logs and rocks and things like that. So they're not necessarily social, I would say, but they don't mind hanging out with other species and other individuals.
And talk to us about their shell. This Blandings turtle is a little bit smaller than a football, but talk to us about the different shapes and sizes of their shells.
So one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about turtles and their shells is that you can remove a turtle from its shell. But that's not true. The shell is actually part of the turtle. So their spine is actually fused and their ribs are fused into the shell. So this is their body. They come in different shapes and sizes, just depending on if they're more aquatic, if they're more terrestrial. Generally speaking, the ones that are more aquatic are more streamlined. We also have soft shell turtles. So these harder shell turtles, their shell is made out of bone and it's covered in keratin. So keratin is just the same kind of material that your fingernails and your hair is made out of. But we have soft shell turtles, and their shells are mostly made out of cartilage, and then it's covered in like a leathery, thick skin. Those are more freshwater. They'll go under the mud, and it just helps them slide under the mud a lot easier. Terrestrial turtles generally have more of a domed, higher shell. And then, like I said, aquatic turtles, like the painted turtles, which you might see swimming around, they're a little more flat and streamlined.
And the top of the shell is called what?
The top of the shell is called the carapace.
And the bottom?
Bottom is the plastron.
All right. And Bradley, age 3, would like to know, what do turtles eat? You said they're omnivorous, but what specifically might they eat in the wild or here at the zoo?
Here at the zoo, one of their favorite foods are earthworms. They will go absolutely crazy for earthworms. Here's a large cup of them. They've all been eyeing it like the spotted turtle is.
Oh, yes.
The box turtles over there, you see they eat salad, but they also eat worms as well. They are definitely more carnivorous when they're younger. As they're growing, they need more calories and more energy. As they get older, they tend to be more towards the omnivorous side. They'll munch on plant matter, algae. They'll eat crickets, insects, crustaceans, anything they can find, really. They'll even eat carrion. You'll see some turtles feeding on rotting food and whatever they can find.
Sure. And Aaliyah, age 8, wants to know, how many babies can they have?
That also varies depending on the species. Usually clutches for these kind of turtles will range anywhere between 1 to 3 if they're younger or smaller females, but it can go up to 20 or 30 eggs.
Wow, amazing.
But I mean, sea turtles lay hundreds of eggs.
Sure, yeah. And all right, who else do we have here with us today? There was a box turtle. There she is.
This is probably one of my favorite turtles just because they're so cute and interesting.
They are so pretty too. Look at that coloring and pattern.
Yeah. So the reason they're called box turtles is because under their shell they have a hinge and they can actually completely shut their shell. So like a little box.
Oh, how neat.
And that's very good for defense. But they're just fun little turtles. They have a lot of personality. They have a lot of cool coloration. Yeah. And usually if you find them, they're like tromping through this forest and just going on their way.
They are so cute. And I would say this one's a little bigger than a softball.
Yep.
You know, just to give you guys some size reference here. And Jamie wants to know, all of these turtles living together, do they ever try to hurt each other?
Every once in a while there'll be a fight over an earthworm, but it's nothing too serious. They're pretty tough. I mean, their skin is pretty leathery and thick, but they also have those shells to protect them. They'll nip at each other's toes, which is something they do in the wild. It's not anything that you can really prevent. So some of them are missing toes every once in a while, especially as they get older. They have more battle scars per se.
Sure.
But they never really do much lethal harm. It's more of just picking at each other.
And Lily wants to know if a spotted turtle would make a good pet.
To own any native turtle pets, I believe you need a permit. But they are pretty small, and as long as you research any pet that you're going to get, but especially for reptiles, they need very specific care. Once you do get them set up, I'm sure they would make lovely little pets. They're pretty cute. They don't get too big. They are very long-lived, so you just need to prepare to have a pet for 30, 40, 60 years.
Long time, yes. And Wendy asks, how can you determine if a turtle is a male or a female?
That varies also depending on the species. With box turtles, males tend to have very red eyes, and females have more brownish colored eyes, so this is a male.
Very nice.
You can also tell on tail shape, but his tail is kind of missing. Someone nipped off the tip of his tail.
Someone nipped his tail. And talk to us about what other turtles are in the yard here. We see some out in the water. We've got some basking. Talk to us about who else is here.
So the one that you guys are looking at right now, that is a red-eared slider. You can find them pretty much anywhere in the northeastern, southeastern, central U.S. They are actually invasive in this area. They are native to South U.S. and Central U.S. down into the northern Mexico area. But they were very, very popular in the pet trade. If you ever went to any sort of little pet shop, pretty much in the last 20, 30 years, you find a little turtle that's about the size of a dime, take it home, and it ends up becoming this very large turtle. And
Yes.
a lot of people ended up just releasing them into areas all over the U.S. So pretty much if you see them in the northern part of the U.S., it's most likely an invasive pet release.
And who was peeking his head
That's
up here?
another Blandings turtle. He was just coming to check us out.
Yeah. Very nice.
And there's a little painted turtle that's sitting up there.
Oh yes, talk to us about painted turtles.
Painted turtles, you can see they get their name just because they have a lot of color. Under their shell they have a lot of orange and red, and around their head they have a lot of yellows. They're mostly found in the northern U.S. They are also pretty popular in the pet trade, but they're not necessarily considered invasive just because they have a much wider native range, so they naturally occur up here. The red-eared sliders, they are causing more issues just because they're such a large turtle and they grow very quickly and they outcompete a lot of our native turtles.
And have we now seen and talked about all of the kinds found in here?
Yes.
All right. Cool. And Maya, age 11, would like to know, what's the oldest turtle we have here at the zoo?
The oldest turtle, I believe, is Emerson, if we're going by tortoises. The turtle in here, there is a box turtle in here that is from the 70s.
All right, fair enough.
And she's wandering around here. She might be eating breakfast.
And Ollie, age 4, wants to know, how many turtles total do we have here?
So that's a tricky question. The way this turtle yard is maintained, it's a very naturalistic setting. We do a census once a year, so we'll go through and do a little turtle roundup and count as many as we can count. And so far, there's about 10 box turtles. We have 2 sliders, 3 painted turtles, 2 Blandings turtles. But we don't always find all the box turtles every year. We do have a record of all of them. But if you notice right where they're eating breakfast, there's that big leaf pile, and I'll pile up a bunch of plant matter and leaf material for them. That's actually where they brumate. Brumation is essentially the reptile equivalent of hibernation. Mm-hmm. So if they're hiding out in there, I don't always find every single one of them, which is fine. They just get a vet check a year. They get where they're doing all right. Yeah. But it's difficult to see exactly how many turtles are in this yard at any given time.
And as you guys can see, they have excellent camouflage.
Yes.
So they can be a little difficult to see. I'm actually checking one out laying over there in the leaf litter over there too. So, you know, just like when you guys come here, take the time, look around. Chances are you're going to see somebody walking by, somebody out on a log, somebody swimming. You just got to take a little time to find them. And Amy asks, can they feel you petting their shell?
That is a tricky, it's difficult to say. They do definitely have nerves. I mean, you can see his spine, actually, the spine of where his spine is.
Yeah.
So they can definitely feel it. I don't know if it's as sensitive as, like, if I were to touch his foot. But they definitely have some sensation on their shell.
And Jimmy wants to know, what's your favorite species of turtles or tortoise?
I do really like box turtles, but since I moved to Ohio, I have a new appreciation for Blandings turtles. They're just really cute and goofy looking, and they always seem to have this like goofy smile on their face. And just learning about the fact that they're endangered just makes it that much more interesting to me.
That is very cool. And Ainsley wants to know, what is their favorite snack? We see everybody over there enjoying a salad. Tell us what's in that salad.
That salad consists of mainly greens. So there's chopped greens, there's some fruit in there, apples and carrots. But I gave them a treat this morning and topped it off with some mealworms.
Woohoo!
So like I said, they are omnivorous. They do like eating plant matter and vegetables and things like that, but they also do love their bugs.
And Calvin, age 6, asks, why is their skin so thick?
It's just for protection. People think of turtles as moving pretty slow. If they were soft and squishy, they'd be even more easy prey. But they are actually surprisingly fast. Turtles are a lot faster than most people give them credit for. They can run. But it's just for defense. And they'll nip at each other, so it's to protect themselves from other turtles.
We're looking at the cool coloration differences there. Mm-hmm. Got one that's quite bright orange and gorgeous there.
Yep. Very
neat. All right. And we're getting a few questions. Do these turtles have names?
They do not.
Because as she mentioned, they don't always find all of them, and there are quite a few of them.
They do each have individual numbers, though. So we do know individual turtles from each other. They just don't have traditional names.
All right. Let's see here. Oh, we're getting a lot of I love turtles. They're so cute. Yes, they are. And Hunter, I hope that you're seeing that they're not all the same color. They have a lot of different color variations.
Yep.
We're seeing bright orange, bright yellow. We have a dark green. We have the bright yellow necks.
Yep.
So that's very cool. Carter wants to know, if you find a turtle on the road, where should you put them?
The easiest answer is to put them on a safe distance away from the road in the direction that they are moving. So if you move it back to the other side of the street, they're just going to cross the road again. Especially in the next month or two, female turtles are going to be looking for nesting sites. And turtles will travel miles to look for perfect nesting sites. They are very picky about where they lay their eggs. Sometimes they might lay them in your yard, and I would take that as a compliment because they don't just lay them anywhere. Turtle eggs, they really need specific temperature and water requirements. They lay very soft, leathery eggs. And another interesting fact is the temperature of the nest actually determines the genders of the turtles that are born.
That's really neat.
If the nest is warmer during a certain point in the egg development, there will be more females. And if the temperature of the nest is a little cooler, then you'll have more males.
Very cool. And Sue, the turtle yard is located behind the reptile house near the hellbender pod and the raptor barn. So make sure that when you come to the zoo, come around the back of the reptile house and check this out. All right, let's see. Layla, age 6, asks, do they sleep tucked in their shells?
They do sleep kind of partially tucked in. They'll also bury themselves and find a nice place to burrow in to make sure that they're safe while they're sleeping. Sometimes they'll just keep the back end of their shell exposed, so if anything were to try to get them, this is all they would see. But again, box turtles can tuck themselves completely into their shell if they really need to.
That's really, really cool, but not all turtles can do that.
No.
Okay. And Rebecca asks, do turtles have different colored eyes?
They do. Box turtles especially, the males will have very red eyes, and the females will have more of a brownish, sometimes yellowish colored eye.
And when would you say would be the best time of year and time of day to see turtles active in our yard?
In this yard specifically, the best time is late morning if it's sunny. They love coming out and basking, but not when it's too hot in the middle of the day. If it's upwards of like 90 or 100, they're going to be in the shade or buried under the leaf litter or in the water. But usually like right around now is when you can see they're most active. These are all native turtles, so they live out here all year round, including in the winter. And as I mentioned, they do go through brumation. And the way they do that is I just make sure that there's enough of a leaf litter cover. The stream keeps running throughout the year, so it prevents this pond from freezing over completely. But the top layer will freeze, and they just kind of bury down below the frost line, and that's where they stay throughout the winter.
And do their internal temperatures go down, and they really don't do much, right?
Correct. So turtles, just like most or all reptiles, are ectothermic. Their body processes and their metabolism is dependent on the temperature. So when they do go through brumation, they essentially are just shutting down any non-essential body processes. One cool fact that kids usually really love about turtles is that they can breathe through their butts.
I love that fact too.
So when they're under the water through the winter, they can't always get to the surface if the surface is completely frozen over. So the way that they are able to breathe, because they do need to breathe air, their cloaca is the most vascularized part of their body aside from breathing. So they can pass the water over that area, and they actually can absorb oxygen into their body while they're sitting under the frozen water.
So yes, guys, she did just say turtles can breathe through their butts.
Yep.
You all learned something really cool and only a little bit disgusting today. And Lily, age 9, wants to know if turtles at the zoo, whoops, I'm sorry, there it was. If they lay eggs here, do we have baby turtles?
Every once in a while, we'll find a hatchling out here. This yard is maintained in a very naturalistic way. So we don't usually intervene. If we do find hatchlings, we'll just let them be. This yard is pretty crowded, so we're not necessarily breeding turtles to add into the yard. But they are more than welcome to. I mean, this beachy area is soft enough that they would be able to dig in and lay some eggs.
Yeah.
They've got plenty of different places to choose from. But we don't necessarily purposely breed them.
And Landon, age 10, Ethan, age 10, and Cameron, age 7, would all like to know how many males and how many females.
That I don't know off the top of my head. It's probably a little bit more males than females in here, if I remember correctly.
Very cool. And Keely, age 8, wants to know how cold is the water?
The water right now is actually pretty warm. So the water that comes in through the stream is tempered. It's warmed when it goes into the building and it goes through the pump. So it's probably in the mid 70s. In the summer, it easily gets into like 80-degree water. Like I said, over the winter, it does partially freeze. But I make sure that the stream stays running so they do have access to come up to the surface if they need to.
And Anna, age 8, wants to know if they can survive in dirty and murky water.
Sure. They don't necessarily need clear water. Like I said, they eat pretty much anything. They will stir up the bottom of the streams themselves to look for crustaceans and worms and little fish and things like that to eat. They're not, obviously, polluted water is a little bit different. That's not great for anything.
Right.
But just like a generally murky stream, they wouldn't mind that at all.
And let's see here. Kenny, age 6, wants to know, are there any poisonous turtles?
Not that I know of, but I mean, science is discovering something new every day, so I can't say they're not out there, but I don't think there's any poisonous turtles that I can think of right now.
All right. And Gabby, age 8, would like to know if we have any western painted turtles.
These are all Midland painted turtles, so these are all the ones that are native to this area.
All right. And we just watched this little guy climb all the way down here, right along the rock ledge, go into the water, and now making their way back out.
Yep.
How adorable. And the coloration is just gorgeous.
Bright, bright yellow.
Yes.
So most people think of box turtles as being terrestrial, but they can swim. They're not the greatest swimmers. They're not going to outrun a slider or anything, but they are pretty buoyant, and they will go for a swim every now and then.
And we did have a question, is the bottom of their shell as strong as the top?
Yeah, it's all pretty much bone covered in keratin. So it's the same amount of hardness. Box turtles do have that hinge, so it's a little more flexible in that area. But overall, it's the same hardness all around.
And for Henry and Bentley, asking about their names, these turtles don't have names like a dog or a cat that we have as a pet. As she said, they have numbers so that we can identify each individual, but they don't give them names like you guys are suggesting. And Rebecca, age 4, wants to know, have you seen any baby turtles right now? Or is this the time to be looking for them?
Not exactly. Right now, they just started coming out of their brumation maybe a couple weeks ago. Right now, they are focusing on breeding. So I've seen a lot of box turtle breeding just in the last couple weeks. So nesting will begin in about June, late May, early June, and then eggs usually take about 2 or 3 months to incubate. So baby turtles you'll probably start seeing end of August, early September. Every once in a while, if we do get a pretty early winter, or if a clutch is laid late in the summer, the babies will actually hatch out in the nest and they will overwinter in the nest, and they will come out the following spring.
Very cool. And Jackson, age 5, asks, what's the rarest turtle that we have in here?
The rarest? Probably between the Blandings and the spotted turtles, just because those two are both state endangered turtles. They're pretty hard to find. Blandings more so than spotteds.
And that answers Izzy's question of, are any of these turtles endangered? So yes, the Blandings and the
spotted turtles.
All right, which were the first two that we met at the beginning of this. And Nina, she was explaining that because these are native turtles, they will stay out in the habitat during the winter. They will find a place to brumate, as you said. It may be underneath the water, it may be under some leaf litter, but they are all out here in the winter. And let's see here. Talk to us about turtle poop.
What do you want to know about turtle
What
poop?
does it look like?
I mean, if they poop in the water, it's just kind of a brown cloud. On land, it's pretty like a solid little round typical turd.
All right, there you go, guys. A little more about some turtle poop. All right, let's see. It looks like we've made it through most of the questions here. We always like to ask our interviewee, what is your favorite part of being a keeper here at the zoo?
My favorite part is answering interesting questions from people, just because a lot of people tend to ask questions that I wouldn't necessarily think to look up myself. But I just like the diversity of working with reptiles, from turtles to lizards to snakes. There's just so much that they've each evolved individually, and they each require such specific care, and you need to essentially recreate each one's natural environment in each exhibit. So it's just nice to have no 2 days the same, no two exhibits are exactly the same. It's enriching for me, it's enriching for them, and they have a lot more personality than a lot of people give them credit for.
That has definitely been evident today.
Yes.
That's so cool to find out. And do you have a favorite species that you work with?
That's such a difficult question because I work with so many different species.
Or a favorite animal, an individual?
It's interesting because turtles among the herp community tend to have, they're usually the lower ones on the totem pole. I'm definitely favored to frogs and lizards. I really love geckos and small little lizards and things like that. But after I started taking care of this turtle yard, I had a new appreciation for turtles, especially just because they have so much personality and they are so sassy sometimes.
I love it. I love it. And Mandy asks, what are predators to turtles?
Most of the predators that they encounter are during their hatchling stage, or the nest before they even hatch. Raccoons, foxes, cats, possums are one of the biggest threats to the nest. They'll just dig up nests and eat all the eggs. As they get older and they start migrating and they start looking for nesting sites, road mortalities are pretty high for turtles. They get hit by a lot of cars. And just the people that are taking them for the pet trade, if they're taking them illegally, they're not always taking care of them correctly. So people are always up there on one of the biggest threats for most animals, and they're no different.
And Amanda asks, what degree do you have to work here in the turtle yard or as a herpetology keeper?
I have a bachelor's degree in ecology, so I really like the connection between animals and their environment, and ecosystems and things like that. So this is a great yard for me to want to work in. But for becoming a zookeeper, generally most zoos ask that you at least have some sort of associate or bachelor's in something that is science related. If you want to specify in reptiles, it's helpful to have a reptile degree, but it's not necessary. Usually zoos will value experience far more than education per se.
And Denise asks, how long have you been here at Toledo?
I actually just moved to Toledo about a year ago. So I'm originally from New Jersey. So I'm still learning about a lot of Ohio's native reptiles and wildlife.
And Thomas asks, what's a good way to help increase the Blandings turtle population? What can we as humans do for them?
The zoo itself does a lot of conservation. They do a lot of tracking of the local populations in this area. So supporting the zoo will definitely help. Any sort of purchases from our gift shop and admission and things like that goes towards our conservation fund. But if you see a Blandings turtle, definitely let either Fish and Wildlife or call the zoo up and let them know, because that'll help us track them and track their populations.
Yeah. And Natalie, age 8, asks, are turtles more active during the day or night?
During the day. They usually come out and bask and will fish and eat little things during the day.
All right, we're going to end with Owen, age 5's question. Can they wag their tails?
They move their tail as they walk, but I wouldn't say they necessarily wag their tails. Not like a dog.
Not quite the same, no. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in with us today. Thank you, Sam, for telling us all about these native turtles. And again, guys, next time you can come back to the zoo, be sure that you come around to the back of the reptile house and check out this native turtle yard. It may take a moment to spot a turtle, but it is well worth spending the time. There are lots of them in here, lots of different species. So be sure that you make this a stop on your next zoo visit. And as we've been saying, guys, as soon as we know anything more about reopening, we will let you know. We are still currently closed and we do not have a reopening date yet, but as soon as we know, we will let everybody know on here, on our social, on our website, and we are just as anxious as you guys are to get you all back in here. So please stay tuned, but keep tuning into these while we're closed. It's our way of staying connected with you. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again tomorrow.